How's it going, friends? Thank you for stopping by and thanks for joining me on the Outstanding Life show. Today, I want to talk a little bit about non reactivity. If you watched a couple of the other streams, we had conversations about identifying our emotions, picking up on what part of us is feeling a certain way, and coming to terms with the root causes of those emotions. It's one thing to label and react quickly to a situation, to an emotion, to an event crisis point, but it's another thing to take a step back and look at take a hard look at what part of us is feeling that certain way and what part of us is driving the bus. It's easy in a stressful environment, in a stressful circumstance, kind of like what we're in now, to go 0 to 60, to go from calm and serene to an eruption of emotion. We talked before about having empathy, not only for ourselves, but for the other person that we're having a conversation with, or that we're having a difficult conversation in a stressful situation. And it can be very challenging to take that deep breath. To, I heard Mel Robbins once, and in her book, The 5 Second Rule, she talks about taking just 5 seconds to stop and essentially just count to five, and but counting downwards like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then making that go, jump, rush, then make your decision. Don't take that first gut reaction and run with it. Take just 5 seconds, and it's only 5 seconds to then make your decision, to then, because in that 5 seconds, we have a second thought, we have a second sobering thought where we can now apply logic to that emotion. And it's okay to have emotion. That's one thing we touched on before. It's okay to have anger, frustration, resentment. It's okay to have negativity in our lives. It's not okay to let that negativity run wild, to let that anger and frustration and resentment start making decisions for us. And when we're in those difficult conversations, when we're in that event crisis point, it's very easy to run wild with that emotion, to run rampant. If left unchecked, that can land us in some pretty sticky situations. I can speak personally about some very challenging moments where my reactions didn't help the situation as a whole. And practicing non reactivity is not just the sense of, it's not just the practice of just don't react, like putting your head in the sand doesn't solve anything. Managing our expectations, taking that deep breath to pause and, I don't want to say articulate, but start to just be one with the event and understand that the event that we're in is not a direct reflection of ourselves as to who we are. The conversation that we're in, the difficult challenge that we're faced with, does not mean that you are difficult, or does not translate into this is the outcome that you deserve. The outcome that we deserve is better than what we're in, and we have an opportunity to help shape that outcome by, I don't want to say labeling our interactions, I don't want to say by dismissing our emotions, but I am saying to take a minute, take 5 seconds, breathe, start to absorb the situation for what it is, naturally look at what we're in right now. What is what are the three things that are in our way right now? And what's the next right thing that we can do to help make that outcome a little bit better? I don't want to say that it's going to be an easy process. And admittedly, taking those 5 seconds to appreciate my emotion has never been easy. It's been hard. And for someone that didn't know what my emotions were, for someone that didn't have that understanding what these other emotions can be, the differences between anger and frustration, the differences between resentment and negativity, the difference between happiness and genuine, authentic connection. Like, these can be different emotions. And if I don't have the appreciation for my emotion, if I don't take a second to dig into what those root causes are, it's easy for me to round up or round down and start making wild assumptions based on that emotion. And if I just live in that reactive knee-jerk responses, the outcomes I'm going to have, the interactions I'm going to have, are no fault of then my own. Yes, the landing myself in the situation may have been outside of my control, but how I respond to a situation is in my control. How I show up, how I express my emotion, how I share my feelings, how I ask questions, how I learn more about how I add to my understanding by asking questions is under my control. And while I have a chance to help shape that outcome, I have a chance to also shape how I show up, how I am curious about that. I don't want to say what is outside of my understanding, but if there's some level of certainty that I have going into a situation, how I ask questions to help expand that certainty can have a different light. Ray Dalio talks about having a audacious goal, but also being able to understand, also being able to ask ourselves, how would I be wrong if I was wrong? How would I be able to grow outside this moment using these tools that I have? And this challenging conversation that I'm in is an opportunity. It's a tool that I can use to help grow and push my boundaries further. And I'm not able to do that if I'm just knee-jerk response, trying to blatantly push my way through to an outcome that doesn't co-opt the other person, that doesn't help them understand where I'm coming from. Even asking those kinds of questions. Hey, help me understand what your thought process is with this. When you're saying things like this, it makes me feel this. These are some statements that I use to help me get a better understanding where they're coming from. And if I'm really not sure, even after sharing those, I'll try to not mirror what they're saying, but I'll empathize by reflecting on where they're coming from, by not reacting immediately with that rage, keyboard warrior kind of responses, but instead trying to use it as a way to say, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is this, or when you're saying things like this, it makes me feel like this. And if those strategies are still not working, I'll try and phrase things in a way where I'll repeat things back to them to help understand more about what they're asking or what they're sharing. And in that response, it starts to make a collaboration. In that response, it starts driving a conversation beyond what was just there by adding more context, by adding more words. I didn't have that before. And that's where I say these challenging conversations, these challenging moments that we're in are opportunities to grow outside our comfort zone. We'll talk more about comfort zone in another show. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. If this is something you're interested in, let me know what you want to chat about in the future. In the meantime, you take care and you have fun. And I look forward to seeing you in another video or listening to another podcast. Bye-bye.